Hello, we have recently got back from our first holiday abroad as a family of 5. We have done lots of travelling as a family, both in the UK and abroad before, but never with 3 children. We travelled to Sea Day in Turkey, so it was pretty warm, although it was May, around about 25, 26. I think it got up to 29 one day. That's Celsius, of course. So for us as Brits, that's pretty hot, and certainly for our children, that's something that they weren't used to. So a lot of these things were really useful in helping to keep them cool, including the first one that I'm going to share with you, which is a canopy hood extender for your pram. You may know that it's really dangerous to cover your baby's car seat or pram or whatever they're sleeping in with any kind of proper cover. A muslin. I particularly hate snooze shades because they're often advertised as being sun safe because they're a breathable fabric, but they're not. Especially they're black, which even if they were white, it still wouldn't make them safe. But basically anything that covers your baby and doesn't allow airflow is dangerous because it can increase the temperature dramatically and very quickly wherever they are. The best way of keeping your baby cool and shaded, of course, is to keep them in the shade. However, if you're walking around in the sunshine, that's pretty difficult to do. So this canopy hood extender was really useful, especially for this pushchair, which I'll talk about a little more in a second. I got it really inexpensively off Amazon. I will link everything that I'm talking to down in the description below. I found it pretty easy, and it just clips onto your regular hood, kind of ties around the back, and it extends the area that your baby is in the shade while still allowing lots and lots of space for airflow all the way through so that they don't overheat. Talking of pushchairs, it's worth investing in a travel buggy or travel pushchair. We got this really inexpensive pushchair. It's what they call an umbrella buggy, and it's basically just a really lightweight pushchair. I particularly like this one because not only is it lightweight, but you can also put it up and collapse it down with one hand, which, trust me, when you're in an airport or in any other kind of place while you're traveling with a little one, is really useful. It's actually become our pushchair of choice now, even when we're at home. My next top tip, and I think this is probably one of my favorite tips that we used, is to keep your children and yourself, if you want to, on the same time zone that you are on at home. For example, Turkey is 2 hours ahead of us, but we actually kept the children on UK time. So when we arrived in Turkey, it was 12 o'clock, obviously 10 a.m. in the UK, and we just treated that as morning snack time. Then when we got to the hotel, by the time we travelled there, it was 2 p.m. To them, it was 12, it was lunchtime. And it worked perfectly all the way through the holiday because it meant that they had a much later nap. So at home, our 2 youngest will nap from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. generally, sometimes a little bit longer than that. But that, of course, translated to 3 till 5 on holiday, which then meant that we had plenty of time to go to dinner a little bit later, go and see the children's disco, which even our 18-month-old absolutely loved, which was on in the evening. And if they had have been on UK time, they just wouldn't have been able to stay up that late. So it worked really well, and actually also, bonus, meant that they woke up at 8 a.m. Turkish time instead of 6 a.m, which is when they generally wake up at home. So it all worked out fabulously. If you have just a short time difference like that to 1, 2, 3 hours, I would highly recommend doing this. The way that we did it was I just kept my phone on UK time, and then Lawrence had his phone on Turkish time, so that we could quickly at a glance see what the time was. Obviously it's not hard to work out, but you know, when you're stressed or dealing with other things with little ones, sometimes it's easy to glance, or you could use a watch, obviously, if you want to be analog. When I packed the suitcases for our family, we actually only took 2. So we took a big, large suitcase and then a medium size. Then we had cabin baggage, obviously, as well. 2 suitcases for 5 people is not that much space, but it worked really well. And I think probably because we used packing cubes. I say we, it was me. My husband did no packing whatsoever, he will freely admit. But I used packing cubes and I colour coded them for the person. So we had different colours of packing cubes, and that just meant that I could put all of that person's clothes into that packing cube, put it in the suitcase, and then when I opened the case, I could really quickly and easily see which clothes belong to which person. It made unpacking really fast. It made it quick when we were at the airport and we needed to open the cabin bag and just quickly get out something for Clara or something for the boys or something for us. It was so easy. They're very inexpensive, these packing cubes, and I definitely think it's a game changer, especially as it helps you to compact your packing more so you can fit more in the case too. Another top airport tip is to make sure that you take both your umbrella, buggy, pushchair, or whichever pushchair you're taking, and your carrier through the airport if you have a baby that will still fit in one, or a toddler. We've got a toddler and she still fits very comfortably in our Beko Gemini carrier. You can take your pushchair all the way through to the gate. And in fact, we took ours all the way through to the tunnel, and literally just before we got on the plane at the door there was somebody collecting the pushchairs and taking them down to put them under the plane, and that was the same both times. When we got off the plane in Turkey, our pushchair was at the bottom of the steps on the airfield waiting for us. However, when we got back to the UK, to Manchester Airport, our pushchair didn't arrive until we were at baggage reclaim, and we had been there for a while. So it stands to reason that having a carrier is a really great way of making sure that you are hands-free, your baby is contained, and that you're easily able to get on the plane and then on the other side go through passport control before you get your pushchair back. Bonus is that sometimes your little one will fall asleep, which is what happened with us when we got on the plane. Clara had fallen asleep in the carrier, which meant that it was really easy then to get a good half an hour of peace and quiet in the first little bit of the plane journey. If you can, I would recommend booking an all-inclusive resort. Honestly, it just makes it so much easier. So I will tell you the specific hotel that we stayed at. We stayed at the Tui Blue Palm Garden Hotel in Turkey. I searched high and low, to be honest, for a hotel that would not only have a family room, because our hotel room had a room for the boys and a room for us too. Clara slept in a travel cot in our room, and also that would have all the amenities that we would want. So slides, baby pool, children's pool, playground, kids club, which we didn't actually end up using, but it did have one. All the amenities were right there, and the reviews on TripAdvisor, which I always go on, were fantastic, and a lot of the other hotels didn't have brilliant reviews. So if you want to save the trouble of going through the hours and hours of research that I did, then I'll link the hotel down below for you. It was fantastic. Honestly, I can't say enough good things about it. It was really clean, spotlessly clean. The staff were really lovely. There was a lot of other families with young children, so we never felt singled out or worried if the children were having a tantrum or we were having a difficult parenting moment. There was lots of other people in the same boat. The hotel was predominantly German and Dutch families, but that didn't matter a jot to us, and we just had a lovely, lovely time. The best thing about all-inclusive, I would say, is that everything's there in the hotel for you, so you don't have to leave the grounds if you don't want to. It just makes it infinitely easier than having to wrestle a hot, sweaty and tired baby into a pushchair and then walk them round and about in the evening to go and look for restaurants or other things. All of those things that I would have loved pre-children. I did love pre-children, but once you've got children, your priorities just change, don't they? If you are in a villa, then I would recommend looking into a local baby rental company to hire all the things like the travel cot, the pushchair, baby toys, pool toys, even bibs and baby cutlery. We have used this service before when we stayed in Portugal, and it was fantastic because then it meant obviously we just didn't need to pack as much stuff. When it comes down to routines, then stick to a similar routine to at home if you can. Of course, using my trick from before about keeping the same time zone will really help with this. But try to stick to a similar routine, especially for times like bedtimes. It just means that the children will feel more calm, more regulated. There will be less opportunity for tantrums or for them to get upset about what's happening. It will lead to better nighttime sleep too. Don't forget, if your child still uses them, to take your white noise machine. Sleeping bag, I would recommend a 0.5 tog because it will be warm unless you're going to be in a very highly air-conditioned room. Ours was, but it was still warm, so we actually didn't even use a sleeping bag. Clara just slept in a sleep suit where we were. You can even take a sheet from home to cover the mattress in the travel cot, or a pillow cover if your child has a particular one that they are attached to. It goes without saying, of course, to remember to pack their favourite bedtime toys. And then the other thing to remember with sleeping is to try and make sure that everybody naps during the day. And I mean everybody, so you, because you'll need it. It is tiring going on holiday with little ones, as much as it's lovely and enjoyable too. And if you can, get your older children to have a nap. Siestas are a very common thing abroad for good reason. It means that your child will be able to stay up later in the evenings and they will be napping at the hottest part of the day. With our older child, our 5-year-old, he's not so much into napping anymore. He definitely doesn't nap at home anymore, but there were a few days around the pool where he had exhausted himself in the swimming pool and then he laid on the sun lounger. We covered him with a towel and he had a little sleep. The way that we worked it routine-wise was that one of us went back to the room where Rupert and Clara slept in their beds in the room. I actually loved that time because I just sat on the balcony and read my book. My husband used it to have a nap himself. And then the other one of us would stay at the pool or on the beach with our older child, and it worked really, really well. If you're traveling on a plane, try to make sure that you time your flights so that they are in the daytime if possible. Maybe covering nap times depending on the age of your child, but try to avoid nighttime flights if you can. If you're traveling in a car, however, on a long journey, then traveling at nighttime is really recommended. So if you're doing a driving abroad holiday, try to time all your long drives in the evening or nighttime, and your little ones will sleep in the car. It will be so much more relaxing for you and less stressful for them too. Happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for watching.